Awesome.
A very good afternoon to all of you present here. Today is the second day of our 3 days winter training program. I myself, Dr. Ishita Yadav from Sage University and Dr. Sandeep Kumar Verma sir from Sage University welcome all of you on this platform. Now I would like to request Dr. Sandeep Kumar Verma sir to welcome today's eminent speaker, Dr. Mukherjee sir. Sir, please. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, very good afternoon to one and all present here. I welcome to Professor Amitev Mukherjee. He's a senior professor and director from Center of Nanotechnology, VIT Value. So now, Dr. Deepak. Okay, Professor, you can continue now.
Sir, before starting the session, I would like to introduce today's eminent speaker. Sir, I want to welcome you in our galaxy to today's excellency. Sir is working as a senior. Sir is working as a senior professor and assistant director in VIT Vellore. Sir is having a broad spectrum of research in terms of nano ecotoxicology, nanoparticles, biomedical interaction, nanosensors, nanobioremediations, etc. Professor Mukherjee has successfully guided 5 doctorate students and currently guiding 8 research scholars in the frontier area of nanobiotechnology. He has earned around rupees 1.5 crore of government grant as a principal investigator, and he is having various research paper in national and international reputes, and he is having more than 1100 citation in the terms of publications. Sir, welcome once again. Hello. Sir, please start your presentation.
Kindly unmute.
Yeah, I have unmuted. Initially, it was not able to. Now I am able to unmute. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. And I thank Dr. Sandeep Verma, Dr. Deepak Kumar, Dr. Ishita Jadhav, and other faculty present here, and all my dear students. So today I'll be sharing, I'll just share my screen first. So hope my screen is visible to all of you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me proceed. So today I'll be talking about I'll make it full screen. Today I'll be talking about green nanomaterials for the clean environment. It is on green synthesis of the iron-based nanomaterials using simple fruit peel waste, what we call food waste or fruit waste, for antibiotic removal from environment, and we have taken water. So how you can prepare green nanomaterials for antibiotic removal? That is the topic of the talk. So initially, to give you a basic understanding about the pollutant, what we are going to remove. So pollutants, we talk about antibiotics here. This is a part of PPCP, pharmaceutical and other personal care products. So this is PPCP, pharmaceutical and personal care products, one of the emerging pollutants now in the environment. Out of that, we have taken pharmaceutical. As you know, how this slide shows how the pharmaceutical products and pharmaceutical pollutants rather is entering soil, water, and other environmental compartments. So these are the different parts, how it's coming to the landfill. From landfill, it's coming to soil. Again, soil, it goes to surface runoff and then added to water. So this is coming to the surface water and groundwater. Again, expired medicine, what we are discarding from our household, they are coming through the sewage treatment plant, and if not treated, it is coming to surface water and so on. Even from excreta of the patients also, the antibiotics which is not metabolized, again coming to the sewage water plant. So it's a cycle, how the antibiotics what we use or which is unused, they come into the environment. The problem with this is if the antibiotics are going on adding to the environment or water or soil, the bacteria which are naturally bacteria which is in soil and water, they get continuously exposed to this antibiotic or rising concentration of antibiotic, and they become antibiotic resistant bacteria. So this is a major problem, ARB, antibiotic resistant bacteria. So you get a lot of ARGs now, antibiotic resistant genes and antibiotic resistant bacteria in the environment because of this problem. So here we have selected a particular antibiotic which is tetracycline. Ever since the pharmaceutical and personal care products are given the collective term PPCP, as I told you, interest in these emerging contaminants has increased rapidly. So out of this, we have selected one antibiotic which is one of the mostly produced, almost second highest produced antibiotic, and this is tetracycline. Tetracycline is used for not only for humans, but it is also used for animal. People use it for poultry and animal husbandry farms also, these antibiotics. And the overall increase in the consumption of these antibiotics between 2000 to 2010 was 76% in European countries. We don't have much data of these antibiotics in India. There are sporadic publications on this. But if you look at Europe and US, there are a lot of good work done in antibiotic prevalence in water. If you are interested, you can check that. And it shows that there is a growing prevalence of antibiotics coming to groundwater, even to our drinking water, and coming to the soil. So next, I will introduce the remediation technology briefly. So I have selected only specific slides for want of time to give you just an understanding of this technology. If you're interested, always you can go to literature and read more on this. So this technology is called nano zero valent iron technology. So this is one of the major technology people use for environmental pollutant removal. They can use this for traditional pollutants like mercury, chromium, and others in water, and it is also being tried for the newer emerging pollutants like antibiotics. Why this is there is a lot of uses of this in nano zero valent iron? Because they are low cost. Iron is generally literally low compared to other other composites and other things what you use. Iron is literally low cost, and it has very high surface area because it's a nano material. It has always high surface area. And these are in situ reactivity. You can add it in the soil directly and it can react in situ with the soil pollutants. This is one of the major advantages of NZVI technology. And the core of this NZVI contains of iron, and whenever you are putting to environment, generally it gets very fastly oxidized. So you have a mixed valent oxide layer on the surface of the metallic iron. So you get a core shell where core is zero valent iron, but it gets oxidized to metallic iron oxides. The shell is made up of these oxides. So if you see the reaction, this is given here, you get a lot of oxides on the surface of this NZVI. Now NZVI, though this is low cost and it has high surface area, in situ reactivity and so on, there are major limitations of this technology for contaminant removal. which is given in the second part of the slide. So it has low reactivity because it has always an intrinsic passive layer of oxides, which is generated during synthesis. So core is reactive, but the core is always surrounded by an intrinsic passive layer of oxides. So that limits the reactivity. So because of this problem, this reactivity decrease again increases over time. If you keep it for a long time, the surface passivation layer slowly increases. So that decreases the reactivity further as you keep it in environment. So over time, you can see a gradual decline in the reactivity of ZVI. And generally, we produce ZVI by toxic chemicals like sodium porohydride reduction in the chemical synthesis process. So this again makes the process somewhat non-environment friendly. Another problem is aggregation agglomeration in aqueous matrix. This is general for any nanomaterial. And there is difficulty in separation of nanoiron from purified matrix. So this is another problem. So these are the major limitations. Now, how we try to cope up with these limitations in our technology is given in next. So what we try to do in the work is preparation of green iron-based nanomaterial. So it is not only this ZVI, we try to coat this ZVI with some more reactive metal or more like PD, Cu and Ni. They are used as dopants. They increase the reactivity and it can protect the iron core against passivation. The second approach what I've taken in the project is we use simple waste like polyphenol rich fruit peels. We have taken different fruit peels and we have found the polyphenol content, and from that we selected the fruit peels. So these are all wasted. If you go to a fruit shop or fruit juice shop, you can see the peels being dumped there near the shop. So these peels we have collected, and these peels we have extracted the polyphenol and use this polyphenol, which is a very good reducing agent, to reduce iron to iron ox nanoparticle. So this we have used for the FeX nanoparticle. X here can be the second metal, PD, Cu or Ni. We have done with 3 and then we check the best one among for the antibiotic removal. Not only this, we have used the green stabilizer also. After you prepare the nanomaterial, generally we need a stabilizer like cellulose, starch and so on, so that the nanoparticle size is kept under control. So stabilizer also we have used environment friendly stabilizer. And finally, we have used some biopolymer to encapsulate this to make a composite. This encapsulation matrix was also green matrix or bio-friendly or bio-based matrix, you can say, like alginate chitosan. We have taken alginate here. Now, right-hand side of this slide, you can see the different aspects of the green technology. This may be very interesting when you look at the green chemistry or green technology approach. The first approach is it should prevent waste, then it should give you renewable material, omit derivatization steps, especially for organics, which is degradable chemical products it will generate and so on. So if you look at it, it comes as productively. This productively, you can see for each of these, there is a factor which is related to green chemistry or green synthesis approach. Now coming to the definition of problem, what we have done, as I told you, we have utilized palladium, nickel or copper as possible dopant, which is a second metal used with iron. We have used polyphenol rich fruit waste like peels of apple, orange and pomegranate. We have ultimately selected pomegranate as reducing agent, and we have used some bio-based stabilizer like green starch or cellulose. So this is, if we do this, we prepare a green synthesized doped Fe-based nanomaterial which is encapsulated in a biopolymer matrix. Later we have used sand also or a matrix which is very easily available and low cost material as matrix. Ultimately what we produce a composite. It's an inorganic organic composite or organic organic composite. And this composite we use for removal or remediation of pharmaceutical from aqueous solution. This is the problem in hand. Now what we do next? Initially, as I told you, we have taken different peel extract. This is the data for different peel extract, and it shows here without showing it goes that pomegranate has a very high polyphenol content. It has very high ferric reducing power. These are all standard assays done for this, and then it has strong DPPH free radical scavenging activities. These are all general assays we do for reducing agent in the different fruit peel or aqueous matrix of fruit peel. And this shows that pomegranate is the best candidate among the 3 fruit peels we have selected. So use pomegranate peel extract for the next step. So what we have done here, we have also checked the GCMS, what are the constituents of pomegranate extract, why it gets the reducing activity, and the compound names are given here in the table. Now, after you prepare this ZVI, zero valent iron by pomegranate, what we do, these are the steps given here. So we have taken pomegranate peel, we powdered that, and then oven dry that, and then powdered peel we keep in -20°C for further use. Then what we do, we add this with the iron salt and prepare this. This process is completely given here. Prepare the zero valent iron using CMC, cellulose, as the stabilizing agent. We prepare the cellulose based NZVI. And the synthesis mechanism also is given here in this. Polyphenol from the peel extract interacts with iron, and CMC is added as a stabilizer. You get this iron zero valent. Over that you have a stabilizer core. Now after this we use some nickel salt. If you see in the last, after you prepare the ZVI, we use some nickel salt, nickel sulfate, add it and interact for 30 minutes to get a nickel coating, nickel zero valent coating. We call it nickel Fe nanoparticle. The same process we use for palladium and copper. We use palladium and copper salt to get the second layer. But here we have given nickel because nickel was giving us the best result for the antibiotic removal. So we continued with the nickel Fe NZVI. These are the characterization figures. This proves that it is NZVI, that is zero valent iron in nano size. This is the TM image which shows that it is within 50 nanometer size. And this is more, you can see this is a lower scale of TM so that you can get more magnified pictures of single particle. This again is ACM. This shows these particles are generally very highly agglomerated because they interact with each other very strongly, this ZVI particle, because of strong magnetic interaction between them. And this particular picture shows the X-ray diffraction peak. This peak indicates that it is zero valent iron peak. So these are all different material characterization we follow, like you do in chemistry lab. After you do an analysis, you sometimes go for conformation of the product. Here we do conformation of the product to finalize whether what we prepared by the previous method, what I was talking about, is zero valent iron or not, whether really we have prepared zero valent iron. So two things here, one is nano size we confirm by TM, then whether these particles are separate or aggregated we confirm by SCM, and then from X-ray diffraction we see whether it's exactly zero valent iron or iron oxide. Where iron oxide is going to be a problem. If you have more iron oxide, the reducing ability will reduce. So we check whether zero valent iron is there in the sample. After this, as I told you, you prepare the second part, that is the preparation of the dopant based nanoparticle. So up to this you can see it is ZVI. After this we add the salt of dopant, nickel, copper and PD to get the nickel Fe, CuFe or PdFe particle. Again we go for characterization which is given here. This is for the nickel Fe particle. We have shown SEM analysis here. Then from the X-ray diffraction we confirm the nickel peak as well as iron peak. And this shows the FTIR spectra. This shows the pomegranate peel extract and NiFe particle FTIR. And it shows that pomegranate peel extract, some of the groups are reduced and it forms the NiFe particle. So these are all different types of characterization we follow. Then these particles, when you put in aqueous solution, whenever you want to remove the antibiotic, you need to put it in aqueous solution. So aqueous solution, what is the size? We measure by particle size analysis, dynamic light scattering analysis, which is 228 nanometer in aqueous solution. And then zeta potential, when you put the particle in solution, what is the surface charge? The surface charge is plus 50 millivolt. The same thing is done for copper Fe particle. As I told you, there are 3 dopants we used. This is copper Fe. It confirms copper is coated. Again, we have done the size analysis as well as FTIR and SCM. And similar exercise is also repeated for the next one, palladium Fe particle. Palladium Fe also confirm palladium Fe is produced. Now, in this particular talk, I have selected nickel Fe because nickel Fe was found to be the best reducing agent or best removal agent for the tetracycline, what we have tried. We have also done intensive work with the other 2 particles and published those work also, but here we have seen the best removal capacity. So I carry forward this with nickel Fe in this talk. So nickel Fe removal, we started with now TC removal study. What we do, we take different concentration of TC, tetracycline, and then we interact with the different concentration of the nanoparticle and look at the effect of nanoparticle concentration, tetracycline concentration, and effect of pH. These are all called one at a time based analysis. So you first look at the effect of Jordan concentration, that is the nanoparticle concentration, keep the TC concentration same. Generally we take 200, the lowest one, sorry, 20, the lowest one. Then we take 20 and the best one, what you get here, we change the pH. Then we confirm the pH and Jordan concentration. Finally, we go for these two, we keep fixed and vary the TC concentration. So the results are given here. All the results are given in times of time so that you can see the kinetics of the process. And from this, we get a range of concentration of nanoparticle, range of concentration of tetracycline, and range of pH. So using this, we have done a statistical optimization technique. This is RSM technique we used, and RSM we have made several runs. The runs are given here, up to 17 runs, and we have kept the range of concentration of nickel Fe, TC, and time is given here. And we see that the highlighted one, this particular row gives you the best combination. So this is 300 ppm of nickel Fe particle with 20 ppm of TC and 1 hour time. This gets you almost 84%, 83.6% removal of TC. TC removal you can measure in the aqueous solution by simply UV visual spectrophotometer. It has a typical UV peak. So after we confirm that there is a subsequent removal of TC from the solution, then we try to look at the different kind of assays or different kind of techniques, characterization techniques to find out possible mechanism of removal. So here we have done TC TOC removal, total organic carbon, and it shows that total organic carbon, there is a stepped approach what you get, not directly following the TC removal trend. So this is TOC generally gives you the reduction percentage. If the TOC decrease is very high, you have very high reduction in the system. The reduction we also check by oxidation reduction potential, C graph. What you see, there is a decrease in oxidation reduction potential, Watt P. This shows again there is a reducing environment in the system. Then FTIR we have done before interacting with TC and after interacting with TC. Here you can see some typical TC peaks in the surface after interaction. So it shows, this particular picture shows there is adsorption of TC also. And finally, this is the FTIR, XIR diffraction what you get here, which shows there is a crystallinity decrease of nickel Fe. So from these diagrams, actually we have marked this to get it more closer. You have given the reference of my publication at the end of the slides, and here also you can go through that. If you look at carefully all this, we find out that there is a strong contribution of reducing environment what we see in ORP, and there is also a contributing role of adsorption in the system from the FTIR. So it's a dual role played by adsorption. So initially TC gets adsorbed over the particle, and then the particle acts on TC as for reducing. And finally, this whether its degradation is there or not, that is confirmed by LCMS, and it shows that the main TC peak 450 m/z goes to a lower mass ratio 240 and 279 m/z, which shows that there is a typically degradation of TC in the system to smaller inorganic compounds. Now we also measured the residual toxicity. You may ask, after you remove and do all these processes, whether there is any improvement in the environmental sustainability or improvement in the biocompatibility of the system and so on. So whether this TC we know is toxic to bacteria and algae. After you do all these processes, whether the effluent also will be toxic or it is less toxic. Our aim is to make very less toxic effluent so that the toxicity is reduced of the system. So what we have done here, we have seen that there is a decrease in the toxicity when you interact with the NIFE treated TC with the E. coli and Pseudomonas. This is a bacteria. You can see the decrease here. So the cell viability is increased. So that shows that there is a decrease in the toxicity. Then what we have done, we have also tried with algae. This is a particular chloride is not given here. You can see there is a decrease of cell viability up to 40% when you interact TC with chlorella. But after you interact the treated TC effluent, if you take, interact with the same algae, you get almost 70%. So 30% increase in the cell viability. So the toxicity is of course rather reduced when you treat this TC containing solution with the nanoparticle we have produced. And how far you can reuse this nanoparticle? We have done this is a continuous cycle experiment, 4 cycles we have run, and we have seen that is more than 80% up to 4th cycle, more than 80% renewable. So you can go on reusing this at least up to 4 cycles of renewable. After we have done all this using the nanoparticle itself, next term, as I told you, we wanted to prepare a composite. Composite, we have taken 2 metrics. One is the alginate bead as matrix, and second one is sand as matrix. Both are low cost and biocompatible. So this shows that the immobilization of GSNI, the green synthesized NiFe particle, which is coated on alginate bead or immobilized alginate bead. This is the X-ray diffraction proof which gives you the peaks of GSNI-Fe in the alginate bead. This is the picture of this alginate NiFe immobilized on alginate bead, and the next to this down to this picture shows the sand. This again proves that NiFe green synthesized is coated over sand, and this is ACM of the NiFe particle coated over sand. So this is a very simple approach. We started with making with alginate bead and chitosan. Then one of my project student was from civil engineering. He wanted to do similar experiments on sand because he was interested in this work, and he told we can simply take sand, which is very good adsorbent, and we can use in columns. So we started this, and we found that it easily get attached to sand with some binding, and then sand coated with this we have used for removal of tetracycline column. So these are the results with NiFe alginate bead. Before we go for column, we wanted to check whether this composite is able to remove tetracycline from water. So this we have seen almost 99% removal with NiFe alginate bead, with only Fe alginate bead, and GSNiFe sand. So with only Fe beads you see 67%, NiFe bead you get 99, and NiFe sand also you get very high 99% removal at pH 7, 20 ppm and 90 minutes. So after we confirm that it works, this alginate bead composite and sand composite, we tried to put it in column reactor. Because whenever you want to develop a water remediation technology or water treatment technology, we don't do it in the batch system. We generally try to do it in continuous reactor system. Like what you see in your water purifier in home, what you use, the domestic water purifiers, we use some column system where it continuously goes. You can see, you can put the inlet and switch on the water flow, and then you get the water from outlet. So that is a continuous system in small reactor, long tubular reactor. Same thing we proposed in lab here. It's a tubular reactor, and the reactor, a part of reactor, we fill it with the sorbent. Here the sorbent is either sand or alginate coated sorbent, and we also use glass wool, and then we flow the water containing tetracycline and check the effluent for the tetracycline concentration. So here the experimental condition, let me explain to you. We use bed height. Bed height is how much is the sorbent height you put, 3, 5 and 10 centimeter. Flow rate, since we are putting the water containing tetracycline, the flow rate we use using peristaltic pump, 1 ml per minute, 2 ml and 3 ml per minute. And initial concentration of tetracycline in the water which you are flowing was 20, 40 and 60 ppm. So these results show that what are the removal percent of the tetracycline using the alginate bead. In this, the optimum concentration was 20 ppm. This we have done after again RSM. The bed height was kept at 15 centimeter. This is optimum condition. Flow rate is 1 ml per minute. This is arrived by the RSM technique. You make almost 17 to 20 runs using different range of parameters and find out the optimum. The breakthrough time, this is the breakthrough time what you get, the lowest, the slowest removal, this one, 690 minutes. Actually, the process efficiency you get by the area under the curve, the area what you get under the curve. As you see here, the slowest one, what you have more breakthrough time, you have the highest area under the curve. So maximum removal you get in the breakthrough time of 690 minutes. The removal capacity of the tetracycline was 487. This we calculate from the area under the curve, 487 milligram per gram of alginate bead. This is the highest we get. So similar work we tried with the sand, which is supported by NiFe bimetallic particle. Again, here we have done these three conditions: 1 ml per minute, 2 and 3, 20, 40 and 60, and 3 meter, 5 centimeter and 10 centimeter bed height. And we check which gives us the maximum breakthrough time or maximum removable capacity. And we have found that initial TC concentration of 20 ppm, bed height of 10 centimeter, and flow rate of 1 ml per minute gives you a breakthrough time of 339 hours. This is the highest breakthrough time. And this gives you a removal of very high removal. You can look at it, it's 1000 milligram per gram. This is almost comparable with any other nanomaterial or graphene oxide based removal capacity what you get in reactors. Whenever you look at literature, you say more of the work has been done in simple sec flask or batch experiment. Reactor studies are less, but whenever you want to use it, apply this in field, we use pump and treat approach. Like you pump the water and treat it in a reactor. What you use in most of the water technology approach for removing arsenic, removing chromium, removing antibiotics or anything, what we do, we pump the water, what you are getting, and then treat it. In home also, when you are using this water purifier, you use RO water purifier or whatever water purifier for any company, what you do, you pump the water and let it flow in the reactor, and then you are collecting the effluent. The effluent is free of the pollutants, free of the bacteria and so on, and is claimed by the company. So basically all these are pump and treat approach. And here also we are trying to develop a reactor where you can use this kind of water, continuous water flow to get a clear or clean effluent, which is having much less concentration of antibiotic compared to what was there in the influent. Now in the sand we have also checked, we have done it for alginate, but here I am showing you for the experiment with sand. Now what it shows here again, as I told you, here there are two different aspects. One is adsorption, because sand itself is a very good adsorbent. Then sand with the NZBI Ni again work as adsorbent, and then the NiFe work for degradation. So you get a degraded product. This is confirmed by the LCMS. So what happens here? Iron gets oxidized to iron 3 or iron 2, and the TC gets reduced, and you get reductive degradation of TC to smaller organic compounds. And this decreases the toxicity of TC, as you have seen in the interaction with bacteria and algae. To summarize the major research findings, what we get here, we have checked with 3 different fruit extracts, pomegranate, apple and orange. And pomegranate peel extract showed highest antioxidant activity and reducing potential. So we have selected this for bioresource to form the NZBI particle. The phytoconstituents responsible for the iron 3 reduction to metallic iron, this is the formation process of NZBI, were identified by GCMS. Then we have made binary or composite particle of NiFe, COFe, PDFe particles. After this, we have made the composite with sand and alginate bead. TC removal efficiency was for nickel Fe was best compared to COFe and PDFe under similar conditions. And TC removal mechanism was studied, and we have found that adsorption as well as reduction both played a quite crucial role in TC removal. So these are the publications what we got from this project. Only one part of this work I have projected today. Other part using PD and copper we have kept, we didn't talk about it, but if you are interested, you can always go through the publications what we got in different high impact journals from this work. And we have published 2 patents also we have filed on this technology. So the work what we presented here was part of my Department of Science Technology SCIV project, which is sanction number given here, and we got it sanctioned by 2017, and it just got completed in August 2020. So it was a very nice or novel technology development approach what we followed. And my students, my PhD students, Geeta and Ravi, Ravi has already graduated, he's Dr. Ravi now, and Geeta is still working with me. And there are a lot of MTech and MSc students from VIT who worked in this project, who was responsible for getting all the data what I've shown you and the publications ensuing from the work. So this comes to the end of the presentation. So if you have questions, feel free to ask me.
Thank you so much, sir. Now the platform is open for the audience. If anyone is having any query or the question, he or she will ask from the sir. Any question from the audience?
Okay, madam. Okay. Hello. Am I audible? Hello. Yeah, Dr. Ishita, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Amitabh for such an interesting talk. It is definitely our pleasure to have you here, sir. And I just want to have one question. Am I audible, Dr. Ishita?
Yes,
My
sir.
voice
Yes,
is clear, na?
yes,
Yeah.
you're very much
Clear.
audible.
Very clear, sir.
Sir, nanotechnology per se, it has a lot of the people, the scientific community and the common people, they are thinking that there are large implications that this particular field can have with respect to adverse reactions. So as you are the right person who has worked for such a long, how do you think that we can nullify this argument? Is it possible to nullify the arguments about the adverse effect of different nanoparticles to human beings and also to the mother nature?
Ma'am,
Yes, sir.
kindly unmute the Amitabh sir, Professor Amitabh.
Sir, please unmute.
Yeah, I've done it now.
Okay.
Okay, if I've got your question correctly, I think you're talking about the negative implications of nanotechnology and how
Yes,
we,
yes,
yes,
because
Dr.
people are
Deepak.
fearing about it. It is a lot of
Yeah,
fear inside the mind, or even inside the mind of the scientific community, and
correct.
also in the common people.
Definitely. You see, any technology when it comes, you have application as well as implication, what we say. So nanotechnology also has a lot of applications, especially in environmental treatment and other areas. And implications also, as you are talking about, because when you are treating any environmental pollutant or any other pollutants also with nanomaterial. So you may ask, you are also adding the nanomaterial to the environment, and nanomaterial may be toxic to the environmental organisms and so on. That is a basic doubt people have. So that's why we try to look at what we call safe by design approach. Like the nanomaterial, when you prepare itself, you induce some safety, biosafety to the nanomaterial, what we call safe by design approach. If you prepare nanomaterial by green synthesis or biosynthesis route, the layer the nanomaterial will have, that will always be biocompatible. Like we prepare by bacteria, there are different routes. We prepare by plant extract and so on. In this case, the negative aspects, what you said, the toxic aspects of it, mostly the chemicals, how we produce the nanomaterial, that add to the toxicity. That may be much reduced if you prepare it by green synthesis route. So that is called safe by design approach. And there is a new area being developed now on this safety design and so on of nanomaterial. But unless you do that, suppose you just buy some nanomaterial or prepare nanomaterial by chemical synthesis and use this abruptly, of course, as you told, there may be a very negative and serious environmental implications. We should be very cautious about using those nanomaterial abruptly.
Yeah, just adding to this one, one more thing. If we are using our natural product, like if we are having green technology, green nanoparticles, will that also cause side effects to the cells? Is it possible if they can penetrate and cause side effects?
Okay, this question is very interesting. See, when we look at nanomaterial with cellular interactions, we have also done several studies in lab. it's very, very specific to what nanomaterial you are using and what type of cell lines and cells you are using. So it varies from organism to organism. So some cases when the nanomaterial is not much soluble, what we have seen, like titanium oxide and others, which is less soluble oxides, that may not have the ion leaching and other aspects. And if you coat it with a biocompatible layer, that becomes less toxic. Like cerium oxide also people use. But whenever you are going to use any nanomaterial for cellular interaction, you need to look at very discreetly and very detailed interaction with the concentrations of nanomaterial, type of nanomaterial, and so on. So I would say it's not a general question to answer. You have to look at specific combinations to get an answer to that.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
the information. Yes, we should, it is the specific thing we should look into. That also I
Right.
agree. Because that will have, we have to monitor it, and also all different
Correct.
type of analysis should be done before it is into the market. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, Professor Amitav, I have one question.
Yes.
Like you develop the metal and metal oxides nanoparticles, especially metal nanoparticle to clean the environment by like especially tetracycline. So can we develop like carbon-based nanoparticles, because it can be a less toxic, I can say, to the environment.
Yeah, you are correct, because carbon generally we say intrinsic material to the environment or especially biological system. So carbon is supposed to be less toxic, but what we have done with fullerenes, we have worked, and we have worked with carbon nanotubes. Those are very toxic materials. But if you work with graphene oxide specifically, graphene oxide I am also using for making composites with other material or graphene oxide itself. So graphene oxide we have seen is a very good material for environmental treatment, which has less toxicity. Again, as I told to Professor Deepak, it depends on the specific combination, we need to check it. But carbon-based, if you look at maybe graphene oxide and other carbon-based polymers, polymeric particles may be an answer for environmental treatment. And that is more benign compared to oxide or metallic particles, some cases.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank
I
you.
have another question.
Yes.
Did you make any attachment, especially like pharmacologically active residues on the surface of this kind of nanoparticles which you are synthesized, like binary and composite?
Not so far, not so far. Actually, we didn't use it for drug delivery approaches. This is mostly for environmental. For drug delivery, we prepare other particles like gold nanorods and gold-based system, which is very inert. We use this for drug delivery.
Yeah, okay, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Dr. Sita?
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your profound knowledge with us. Your session was full of visionary words and very knowledgeable for all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It is our pleasure to have you with us, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. I look forward to meeting all of you again later on some other platform,
sure,
maybe
sir.
physically. Thank you.
Sir.
Sure,
Thank
sir.
I just want to say many thanks, Professor Mukherjee, for accepting our invitation and enlightening us about green nanotechnology, how we can synthesize and how we can clean the environment. Thank you so much, sir, from bottom of my heart for accepting our invitation. And see you next week.
Thanks to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
There is an announcement for the audience. Tomorrow is the third day and the last day of the 3 days winter training program. We will rejoin at 2 p.m. with the same ID and the password.